Isabella Vance's golden boy, Julian Hayes, was coming home. She looked at me, her face a mask of cold indifference. The contract's over, Chris. You need to leave. I turned to go. I knew this day was coming. I figured that would be the last I ever saw of her. But then, a short while later, I got sick. And for some reason, Isabella was the one taking care of me, whispering reassurances to Julian on the phone. I know it's your birthday, but Chris's throat is killing him. I have to be here. Wait a second. This wasn't how the story was supposed to go. I was the stand-in. Why was I suddenly getting the leading man treatment? Chris, you need to leave, Isabella had said, her voice like ice. I saw it coming a mile away. Tomorrow, Julian Hayes, the one and only object of her affection, was due to land at JFK. The placeholder, me, was no longer required. I looked at Isabella's exquisitely cold face, and the last 3 years washed over me like a tidal wave. I was playing a regular gig at a dive bar in the East Village when she stumbled in, smelling of expensive whiskey and desperation. 1 minute I was mid-chorus, the next she was on stage, clinging to me like I was a life raft. My only thought at the time was, drunk women are heavy. Julian, why did you leave me? She'd wailed, smearing tears and God knows what else all over my secondhand jacket. I managed to peel her off and hand her back to her friends, assuming that was the end of it. But the next day, she found me again. She threw a contract on my cafe table, a stack of paper an inch thick. The gist of it was that I was to be her boyfriend in name only. My duties included caring for her, cherishing her, and loving her. The fine print was a nightmare, 10 pages of single-spaced bullet points. During the contract period, I was to have eyes only for her. I had to grant her every wish. When she was happy, I had to be happy with her. When she was upset, I had to make her happy again. The contract was set to expire the day Julian Hayes returned to the United States, 3 years from signing. My first reaction was, who the hell are you? And who is Julian Hayes? I want to stand up and shout, just because you look like you own half of Manhattan doesn't mean you can buy people. Men have dignity. But then I flipped to the last page and saw the salary. My dignity went right out the window. Okay, so maybe she could buy people. I'm not the kind of guy to sell his soul for a pittance. But for a king's ransom, I could be persuaded. So, in a moment of weakness, I signed. And my nightmare began. Isabella was a Vance. She was born with a silver spoon in her mouth and a trust fund the size of a small country's GDP. While I was still trying to make rent, she was lapping me in her Maserati. That kind of upbringing had molded her into a demanding, mercurial tyrant. For 3 years, she was a beautiful little demon who made my life a living hell. The slightest inconvenience, and she'd fly into a rage, grabbing whatever was nearby. A hairbrush, a remote control, a riding crop she kept for some reason, and taking her frustration out on me. All while screaming his name. Julian, I'll teach you to abandon me. I'll teach you. Dude, that kind of role play was definitely not in the contract. The object she used never really hurt, not physically, but the humiliation clung to me like a shroud. I was a happy-go-lucky guy, and for a while there, I was battling a genuine case of depression. I eventually learned the backstory. Julian Hayes, the man she was obsessed with, had left for an overseas business venture without so much as a goodbye. Isabella, whose possessiveness was already legendary, had completely unraveled. The night she found me, drunk and heartbroken, she saw me on stage, and her grief-addled brain superimposed his face onto mine. I've seen pictures of Julian. I suspect Isabella needs glasses. I'm way better looking than that guy. But when you're living under someone else's roof, you learn to bite your tongue. To make my life easier, I started playing the part. I learned to anticipate her moods. Her stomach was sensitive, so I taught myself how to cook bland, gut-friendly meals that still tasted amazing, just to please her. She had insomnia, so I'd hum lullabies and stay by her side until she drifted off. She wanted me to be Julian, so I studied videos of him, mimicking his posture and his speech patterns. She liked the riding crop. Yeah, no, that was a hard pass. That was bad for my mental and physical health. Eventually, my efforts paid off. Her psychotic episodes became less frequent. I couldn't help but think, damn, this is the hardest money I've ever earned. And now, the real Julian was finally coming back. I was finally free of the princess. You seem happy about it. Isabella's eyes narrowed, her face chilling over like a pond in January. The corners of my mouth had been twitching upwards without my permission. Danger! Warning bells screamed in my head. The taste of freedom had made me careless. For someone with Isabella's massive ego and control issues, seeing me delighted to leave was like dancing on her last nerve. Isabella's rules, Article 12. When parting with Isabella, one must always appear heartbroken. Julian's sudden departure had broken something in her, turning her from spoiled to borderline unhinged. I had to get through this last day without a scratch. My 3 years of award-worthy acting skills kicked in. I instantly wiped the smile off my face, replacing it with a bittersweet, pained expression. "I'm happy for you, Izzy," I said, my voice thick with faux regret. "You finally got Julian back." I paused for dramatic effect. "And I guess it's time for me to go." Then I turned back, my eyes glistening with unshed tears. I let my voice crack just a little. "But you have to promise me something. If he ever treats you badly, you have to tell me. So I can throw a party," I silently added. It worked. The frost in her eyes thawed slightly, but her tone was still sharp, reprimanding. "Our contract is over. My life is none of your business anymore, and you are forbidden from ever appearing in front of me and Julian again." The words were cold, but I knew I'd passed the test. I deserve an Oscar for that performance. "And stop calling me Izzy," she added. I blinked. Weren't we never supposed to see each other again? Besides, she was the one who insisted on the pet name in the first place. I felt sick saying it for the first 6 months. How quickly things change when you're no longer useful. Not want to push my luck, I continued the act. "I understand, Miss Vance." I heaved a sigh, placing a hand over my heart like it was shattering into a million pieces. "Now that you understand, get out," she said flatly. "The final payment has been wired to your account. I have to call the cleaners to scrub this place down. To erase any trace that I ever existed," I thought. A notification pinged on my phone. I glanced down and saw the transfer confirmation. I'll say one thing for her. Isabella Vance was never cheap. I gathered my few belongings, took one last, long look around the gilded cage that had been my home, and walked toward the door, shoulders slumped in pretend dejection. "Wait," she called out. My heart jumped into my throat. "Please, God, don't let there be some last-minute complication." Isabella hesitated for a moment, then held out a key fob. "This is for my condo at the Everly in Soho. If you don't have a place to stay, you can live there for a while. Consider it. Severance." Isabella's rules, Article 6. When Isabella gives you a gift, you must accept it as if it's the greatest treasure on earth. I feigned utter shock, taking the key fob with trembling hands. "Ms. Vance, are you serious?" "Just take it," she snapped. Then, almost a whisper, she added, "You did a decent job these last 3 years." She tossed the fob into my hand, turned, and disappeared into her bedroom without another glance. I didn't make it 2 blocks from her Upper East Side penthouse before I burst out laughing, jumping into the air like a madman. "Huh, little Miss Vance, wrapped around my little finger. You couldn't drag me back here if you sent a damn parade." I walked straight to the front desk, handed the key fob to the doorman, and asked him to return it to Ms. Vance. Then, with a spring in my step, I walked out into the sweet, sweet air of freedom. The next day, Isabella applied her makeup with surgical precision and drove to JFK to meet Julian Hayes. The Vances and the Hayeses were old family friends. Julian was 2 years older, and Isabella had followed him around like a puppy her entire childhood. In her mind, he was the kind, handsome, reliable older brother she was destined to marry. She declared it 1,000 times, a childhood crush that had never faded. Both families, seeing how close they were, had been happy to arrange an engagement. But right before the announcement, Julian had vanished, using a sudden business emergency abroad as an excuse. He was gone for 3 years. On the day he left, Isabella felt like she was going to explode. She wanted to fly across the ocean and demand an explanation, but her parents stopped her. Defeated, she'd gone out drinking with friends and stumbled into a bar in the East Village, where she found Chris Miller. Watching Chris on stage, confident and radiating charisma, Isabella's mind had blurred the lines. She saw Julian, so she'd signed Chris to a contract, making him her boyfriend for 3 years, a proxy onto whom she could unload all the resentment she felt toward the man who had abandoned her. "Izzy, baby, what are you thinking about?" a familiar voice called out. Isabella spun around, her heart leaping. The first thing that hit her was the overpowering scent of cheap cologne, musk her least favorite. She wrinkled her nose and looked at the man in front of her. His hair was slicked back in a greasy style, and his face was pale and puffy. "Who are you?" she asked, genuinely confused. "Haha. Izzy, baby, are you still mad at me? I told you I had to go. It was for the family business." Julian spread his arms for a hug, but Isabella recoiled in disgust. "Don't call me Izzy," she snapped. For some reason, it sounded so much better coming from Chris. Julian looked awkward, then his eyes lit up, and he pulled a fancy gift box from his bag. "Right, I brought you a present. The new necklace from Chanel." He took it out and moved to put it around her neck. Isabella took it from him, didn't even look at it, and tossed it in her purse. You must be hungry. Let's go eat. Julian frowned. In the past, any gift from him would have sent her into fits of joy. Why was she so cold now? At his suggestion, they went to a high-end steakhouse. Waiter, I'll have a New York strip rare. Izzy, I remember you love your steak rare, just like me, so we'll have 2 of those. Julian ordered for both of them without even looking at her. I used to eat at this chain's London location all the time. Absolutely incredible. I had no idea they opened a branch here. Hope it's just as good. Isabella said nothing. The truth was, she hated rare steak. The bloody color and chewy texture made her stomach turn. But Julian had loved it, so she had forced herself to love it too. Looking back, she realized she'd always done that, made herself small and agreeable to fit into his world. Watching Julian drone on, his mouth full of food, she inexplicably found herself thinking of Chris. If Chris were here, he would have taken me for that creamy tomato bisque I love, the one with the little grilled cheese croutons he learned how to make just for me. A faint smile touched Isabella's lips. Across the table, Julian saw it and preened. She's still the same old Izzy, he thought. Just having a meal with me makes her that happy. That afternoon, Isabella let Julian drag her around the city for a bit before her enthusiasm completely died. Making an excuse that he must be tired from his flight, she cut the day short. Driving back to her building, her stomach started to rumble. She hadn't eaten enough. It wouldn't hurt anything to call Chris and have him come over and cook, right? Completely ignoring her own words from the night before, she found a justification and pulled out her phone. She dialed his number, but an automated voice answered. The number you have dialed is no longer in service. Clatter. Her phone fell onto the passenger seat. A powerful wave of anxiety washed over her. Just then, a security guard knocked on her window. Ms. Vance? A Mr. Miller asked us to give this to you. The guard held out a key fob. The one for her condo at the Everly. Isabella snatched it, her knuckles turning white as she gripped it. It took a long moment for her to come back to herself. She picked up her phone and dialed her assistant. Find Chris Miller. After leaving Isabella, I found a music producer I knew and handed him a few demos I'd worked on over the past 3 years. My dream was to be a singer. The whole reason I'd signed Isabella's insane contract was for the money, the seed capital I needed to launch my career. I hadn't counted on Isabella refusing to let me perform. It was a violation of our agreement, but when I pointed that out, she just directed me to a clause at the end of the contract. Any activity Isabella Vance dislikes requires her explicit consent to undertake. It was a classic final interpretation rests with me clause. I, the naive rookie, had been played by big money. What could I do? I'd signed the damn thing. I had to see it through. So, I wrote my music in secret, late at night, preparing for the day I'd be free. Now, my time had come. Suffering, it turns out, really is the soil for art. The demos I'd created during my time in Isabella's gilded cage blew the producer away. He called them stunning. It made me feel like all the humiliation hadn't been for nothing. I told him to line up the best session musicians and sound engineers in the city. Money was no object. A week later, the tracks were recorded. When I got back to my rental in Queens, I found Isabella Vance waiting for me on the stoop. I froze. Shouldn't she be in the throes of a romantic reunion with Julian? What is she doing here? You blocked my number, she said. Her voice was laced with a fury that sent a chill down my spine. It was the tone she always used right before she lost it. I instinctively flinched, but then I remembered. The contract was over. The final payment was in my account. She was just my ex-boss. I wasn't going to let my ex-boss push me around. The old number had bad luck attached to it. Decide to get a new one, I said with a cool smile, my tone casual and even. My change in attitude seemed to throw her. Her brow furrowed, but she reined in her temper. Sign this. She handed me a folder. I took it. A familiar feeling washed over me as I read the first page. It was another contract. This time, not for a boyfriend, but for a personal assistant. The terms and conditions, however, were identical. Ms. Vance, I'm not sure I understand, I said, looking up at her. I want you back, she stated, her face grim. And what would Julian think about that? I tried to use her golden boy as a shield against whatever insane idea she'd cooked up. A flicker of conflict crossed her face. Then, as if making a hard decision, she clenched her jaw. I'll hide you. He'll never find out. Jesus Christ. You make it sound like I'm your mistress. I pressed my fingers to my forehead, trying to process her particular brand of crazy. I'm sorry, but I refuse. I made a stupid mistake once out of desperation. I wasn't about to walk into the same trap twice. Is it not enough money? She seemed genuinely surprised by my rejection. I can add more. It's not about the money, I said bluntly. I'm just tired of waiting on you. her face flushed with anger. She raised her hand to slap me. But this time I was ready. I caught her wrist in one swift motion, spun her around, and pinned her against the wall. A jolt of pure, unadulterated triumph shot through me. Every cell in my body sang. Yes, I'd wanted to do this for 3 years, but the astronomical breach of contract penalty had always held me back. Now I was free, and this tiny woman thought she could still lay a hand on me? Smack. I landed a firm, stinging smack on her backside. That's for all the times you pulled this crap on me, I growled. Consider it interest. If you ever try to hit me again, I won't be so nice. With that, I pushed past her, walked into my apartment, and slammed the door at her face. Isabella slid to the ground, her face burning. A wave of humiliation, deeper than anything she had ever felt, washed over her. Chris Miller, she seethed through the door. You'll regret this. Chris, all the streaming platforms rejected your new tracks. Did you piss someone off? The call from my producer felt like a punch to the gut. The world tilted on its axis. Isabella Vance. It has to be her. I raged internally. Why can't she just let me go? Maybe this was my punishment for taking the easy way out 3 years ago. But I've always been an optimist. It didn't take long for me to regroup. Fine. If that's how she wants to play it, I'll just start from the bottom again. There's no way she's powerful enough to blackball me everywhere. So I grabbed my guitar and started busking. Subway platforms, Washington Square Park, anywhere with a crowd. I started a live stream too. A lot of people stopped, captivated by my voice, and pulled out their phones to record. Slowly, clips of my performances started circulating online, and I began to build a small but dedicated following. One night, I was playing a set at a bar in Brooklyn when I saw Isabella walking with a man. It was Julian Hayes, the man I'd studied on video for years. The moment my voice hit her, Isabella's head snapped up. Our eyes met across the crowded room. She just stared, frozen, until Julian nudged her back to reality. Well, time to find a new venue, I thought with a sigh. During my break, I was in the back office when the door burst open. It was Isabella. So, have you learned your lesson yet? She said, her voice dripping with condescension. She sounded like the devil offering a deal. If you apologize right now and sign the new contract, you won't have to be so pathetic. You can have your old life back. A life of paradise. I burst out laughing. A loud, genuine laugh. Paradise? You mean the life where I was your glorified servant, subject to the whims of a crazy person day in and day out? No thanks. I shook my head, my smile turning sharp. As far as I'm concerned, this, being free, play my music, this is paradise. I leaned in closer. And that gilded cage you call a home? It was a hell that made my skin crawl. What did you say? Enraged, she grabbed a small trophy off a shelf and hurled it at me. I dodged it easily, closed the distance between us in 2 steps, and swept her off her feet. I flipped her over my knee, holding her firmly in place. It seems you're a slow learner, I said, my voice low and dangerous. Isabella realized what was about to happen. Her body tensed, and she struggled. Don't you dare. Smack. The sound was crisp and loud in the small room. Chris, I'm going to kill you, she shrieked. Still talking back? I brought my hand down again, harder this time. Stop. Please stop, she begged, her voice cracking. But the frustration of the past few days, combined with 3 years of pent-up resentment, had washed away my self-control. Say my name, I commanded. Chris, she bit out through clenched teeth. Not good enough, I said, my hand not stopping its rhythmic punishment. Say, Chris, I was wrong. Finally, she broke. Chris, I was wrong. Please stop hitting me, she sobbed. The words slammed into me, and my sanity came rushing back. I froze. I looked down at her, at the tears streaming down her face, and a cold dread filled me. Oh God, what have I done? I've gone way too far. She's going to hire a hitman. I need to leave town. The Vances have connections everywhere, don't they? Maybe I should leave the country. As my mind raced, Isabella's cold, quiet voice cut through my panic. Can you let me up now? Oh, right, yes, of course, Ms. Vance, I stammered, scrambling to help her to her feet. She straightened her clothes, her face an unreadable mask. Without another look at me, she turned and walked out of the room. I staggered to the men's room, my mind reeling as I tried to figure out where I could go to disappear. As I splashed water on my face, Julian Hayes walked in. The sight of him made my blood boil. Can't you keep your damn fiancé on a leash, so she stops harassing me? I felt an impulse to trip him, but just then his phone rang, and he turned away from me. He shot me a weird look, probably wondering about my aggressive posture, and stepped into a stall. Dad, I know. I'll get things finalized with Isabella as soon as I can. But she's been acting weirdly distant lately. His voice carried clearly from the stall. My interest piqued. I discreetly started a voice memo on my phone. There's no way she knows about what I was doing overseas. I was very careful. Dad, stop. You know what a control freak Isabella is. Once we're married, she'll have me on a 24/7 watch. When am I supposed to have any fun? Give your son a break. I'm doing this for the family, agreeing to this merger. Can I blow off some steam before I'm shackled for life? That's the only reason I went abroad, to get out of my system before she could find out. And I gotta say, those European girls are something else. You should try it sometime, Dad. Yes, I know the company needs the Vance family's capital infusion. Otherwise, you think I'd come back so soon to marry that ice queen? I wanted a few more years of freedom. Okay, Dad, I gotta go. Izzy's waiting for me. I heard the toilet flush and quickly slipped out of the bathroom. What a goldmine. This trip to the bathroom was more productive than my last recording session. Isabella, I thought, you're so busy trying to ruin my life, you don't even realize your own backyard is on fire. I was debating whether to send her the recording, get her so focused on her own drama that she'd forget about me, when Julian Hayes found me the next day. So, that's why Isabella's been acting so different, he sneered, looking me up and down with open contempt. She found herself a little contract boyfriend. He's not even as handsome as me. What does she see in you? When it comes to being blind, you two are a perfect match, I shot back. Ooh, a little feisty, are we? Fresh off the boat and thinks he's tough, Julian chuckled, clearly enjoying himself. Look, I'm not going to waste my time. Stay away from Isabella. If you don't, I have a million ways to make your life disappear. Oh, and what might those million ways be? I asked, feigning curiosity. Well, for starters, the first way is he caught himself, realizing he was being baited. His face hardened, and he lunged forward, grabbing my collar. Are you mocking me? You're going to show me some respect, I said, my voice dead calm. What? Julian's eyes widened, as if he couldn't believe what he was hearing. I said, from now on, you treat me with respect. Got it. I stared him down. You son of a... He raised his fist. I just held up my phone and pressed play. Julian froze as his own voice filled the air, his face draining of all color. He stood there, stunned, processing the sudden, catastrophic turn of events. You know, Julian, I said casually, you really wouldn't want Isabella to hear this recording, would you? He snapped out of it, his entire demeanor changing. Hey, buddy pal, let's talk about this, he said, his voice wheedling. How about $1 million? You delete that recording, and it's all yours. I just laughed. You think this is about money? I shook my head. You have no idea. You're enjoying this, aren't you, you bastard? He seethed, lunging for my phone. I sidestepped him easily, and he stumbled past me. He was all talk. You really think I didn't make a backup? I said, savoring the classic movie line. Julian slumped, defeated. The fight went out of him completely. What do you want? It's simple, I said. You get Isabella to leave me alone. You make sure she never bothers me, never comes near me again. You do that, and I can guarantee this little recording of ours never reaches her ears. Julian stared at me, a flicker of confusion on his face. He had come here to threaten me into staying away from her. After all that, we'd somehow ended up at the exact same goal. You hear me? I prodded. Why, yeah, he stammered. I hear you. So much for Julian Hayes. The guy was completely useless. I stared in disbelief as a construction crew swarmed my apartment, tearing down walls and ripping up floors. Isabella stood in the middle of the chaos, directing them like a general. Isabella, what the hell are you doing? If you want to get back at me, fine, but this is a rental. I don't own this place. I yelled over the noise. I know, she said, flashing a freshly printed deed. So I bought the building. I was speechless. Money really could solve everything. What do you want from me? I asked, feeling utterly defeated. Since you won't come back to me, she said, as if it were the most logical thing in the world, I'll just have to move in with you. What is wrong with you? Why aren't you with your precious Julian? What are you doing here? I shouted, my frustration boiling over. Her expression softened into something tender. She opened her mouth to speak, but her phone rang. She glanced at the caller ID, and her face went dark. She answered, hello. I could faintly hear Julian's voice on the other end. Isabella, where are you? I'm busy with something for the company, she replied coolly. Don't lie to me, Isabella. You're with him, aren't you? You're at Chris's apartment. Julian roared. Isabella paused. Chris needed help with something, she said, inventing a new excuse. I don't need your help with a damn thing. Just go away. Izzy, you promised we'd get steaks tonight, Julian whined. Yes. I silently cheered him on. Guilt trip her, Julian. The sad, pleading boyfriend act. She can't possibly resist that. But Isabella just made a gagging sound. This is probably going to take all night. Just order takeout for yourself. Isabella, do you even care that I'm your fiancé? Julian finally exploded. We're just friends, Julian. If you're going to be paranoid, there's nothing I can do about it, she said, and hung up. I stood there, stunned. This had to be a nightmare. Julian found out about you somehow, she said, turning back to me. But don't worry. I'll protect you. Seeing that reasoning with her was impossible, I gave up. Fine. If I can't fight her, I can run. For the next few days, I didn't go back to the apartment. To avoid being found, I didn't even check into a hotel. I spent a few nights sleeping on a bench in Central Park. Unsurprisingly, I caught a nasty cold. That, combined with days of singing on the street, left my throat so raw I couldn't speak. Defeated, I went to an urgent care clinic. The doctor gave me a prescription and told me to go home and rest. I tearfully typed on my phone, "I don't have a home. Please, can you just admit me?" After much begging, the doctor finally agreed. Lying in a real bed for the first time in days, I could have cried with relief. "You'll never think to look for me here, Isabella," I thought triumphantly. As if summoned by the devil himself, the door to my hospital room swung open, and she walked in. "Chris, are you okay?" Isabella rushed to my bedside, her face etched with genuine concern. "Just let me die." I stared blankly at the ceiling tiles, my spirit completely broken. "Doctor!" Isabella cried out in alarm. "Is he in a vegetative state?" "You're the vegetative state. Your whole family is a vegetative state." Her phone rang. Of course it did. "Izzy, the birthday party is about to start. Where are you?" It was Julian. "Chris is sick. I'm at the hospital with him," she said, her tone flat. At least she wasn't lying this time. Otherwise, I'd have been tempted to snap a selfie with her and tag Julian with a caption, "So glad to have you here taking care of me." God, that would be a bitchin' move. "Isabella, it's my birthday." Julian protested. "So what? You have a birthday every year." "Chris has a sore throat," she shot back, as if Julian were being incredibly insensitive. Was this really happening? Was this the plot now? "Go home, Isabella. Go back to Julian before he's left sitting at an empty table, heartbroken. You're going to have to do some serious groveling to win him back after this." She hung up the phone and turned to me, her voice softening. "Don't worry, Chris. You just rest. Julian's just like that. He'll get over it." I closed my eyes. Just let the world end now. "Isabella, what is going on? I want a straight answer right now." Julian stormed into my hospital room, pointing a trembling finger at me. "It's him or me," he shrieked at her. I secretly gave him a thumbs up. "Good for you, man. Laying it all on the line. Way better than those sad sack guys in romance novels who just pine away." Julian caught the gesture and shot me back a look that said, "You can count on me, bro." "I told you, Chris and I are just friends," Isabella said, her face an icy mask. "Just friends." Julian laughed, a bitter, broken sound. Would a friend abandon her fiancé's birthday party to take care of him? I nodded emphatically. He had a point. Would a friend buy the building he lives in and try to move in with him? Again, I nodded, glaring at Isabella right along with him. Would a friend have a life-size body pillow of him that she sleeps with every night? I nodded again, then froze. "Wait, what did you just say?" I stared at Isabella in horror. She glanced away, a guilty look on her face. She didn't even deny it. I suddenly felt violated. "Are you finished?" Isabella asked when Julian paused for breath. Her entire demeanor shifted, and an aura of pure, cold power filled the room. Both Julian and I shivered. "I know everything, Julian." He flinched, his eyes darting to me accusingly. I shook my head frantically, trying to signal that I hadn't said a word. "Do you really think I wouldn't find out about the Hayes Corporation's financial troubles?" Isabella said with a smirk. "Oh, that's what you meant." Julian and I both visibly relaxed. Isabella looked at us, confused. "What did you think I meant?" "Nothing. Nothing at all." Julian waved his hands dismissively. She let it go. "So, as it stands, your family needs my family. Do you understand?" Julian's face transformed, a sycophantic smile spreading across his lips. "What's mine is yours, Izzy. We're all one big family now." "Don't be ridiculous," she snapped, glancing at me. Seeing no reaction, she seemed to relax. Then, she reached in her purse and pulled out a sleek leather riding crop. With a flick of her wrist, it made a sharp crack in the air. "What fresh hell is this?" I instinctively tried to shrink away, but her gaze was locked on Julian. "Which means," she said, her voice dangerously sweet, "that whatever I do to you right now, your family will forgive me for it." "What? What are you going to do?" Julian stammered, trembling. The riding crop answered for her, landing squarely across his shoulders. "Are you going to tell me what to do again?" she asked, striking him again. "Are you?" "No, never again." Julian yelped, scrambling to get away from her. I couldn't believe it. She was actually doing it. If she had this kind of backbone from the start, she wouldn't have needed to take her frustrations out on me. And for the love of God, could you two not have your BDSM fight in someone else's hospital room? My silent screams were trapped in my useless throat. After chasing Julian out of the room, Isabella came and sat on the edge of my bed. She took my hand. Now, there's no one to bother us, she said softly. Chris, I need to tell you something. When Julian came back, I realized he had changed. He's become this greasy, inconsiderate, careless person. He doesn't even have abs anymore. As she said this, her other hand started to wander toward my stomach. I snatched my hand back, giving her a look that screamed personal space. She ignored it. He's become everything I hate. He's nothing like the Julian in my memory, and the difference was just jarring. I couldn't accept it. It wasn't until that day I saw you on stage at the bar, shining like the sun, just like the first time I saw you. That's when I finally understood. It wasn't that he changed. It was that for the last 3 years, you became him. You made my memory of Julian into something so much better, so much more perfect, that the real thing could never compare. I transferred all my feelings for him onto you. She looked me right in the eyes. Chris, I think I'm in love with you. I love how you took care of me. I love your talent. I love. She paused, a blush creeping up her neck. I love the way you spanked me, she whispered. It was so dominant. I shot up in bed, a strangled noise escaping my throat, and scrambled as far away from her as the bed would allow. You idiot. Look what you've done. I started smacking the back of my own hand in frustration. No, she cried, rushing over to stop me. Look how excited you are, she giggled. Don't worry, this isn't a dream. I really wish it was. Being the object of this little demon's obsession was a fate worse than death. Damn it. Why did she get to speak her mind while I was stuck here, mute with 1,000 things I wanted to scream at her? Oh, for the love of God. Where was my phone? I needed to type out a tirade. My parents probably won't approve, she said, her expression darkening. You should have led with that. I stopped looking for my phone, a hopeful expression on my face. But don't you worry, Chris. I'll make them agree. And if they don't, I'll be with you anyway. I'll support you. We can make Julian the cuckolded fiancé. The Vances are more powerful than the Hayeses now. He won't dare to object. And if all else fails, I'll run away with you. She was beyond saving. The world went white around the edges, and my already weak body gave out. I fainted. When I woke up again, Isabella was gone. In her place sat a middle-aged man who bore a striking resemblance to her. Mr. Miller, a pleasure. I'm Isabella's father, Harrison Vance. He took out a sleek, black credit card and tossed it on the bedside table. I don't like to beat around the bush. $5 million. Leave my daughter. I picked up the Amex black card and tossed it right back at him. Mr. Vance's eyebrows shot up. Is the amount insufficient, Mr. Miller? Like father, like daughter. I was done taking this family's money. Who knew what strings would be attached? My voice was still raspy, but after a day of rest, I could speak. If you can guarantee your daughter will stay away from me. I croaked, I'll pay you $50. I'm sorry. He clearly wasn't following. I'm not interested in your daughter, I said plainly. Excellent. A man of his word. Mr. Vance smiled. We have a deal. He pulled out his phone and held up a QR code. My Venmo. It took me a second to process it. I found my phone and sent him the $50. I guess that's how you get to be a billionaire. You never turn down a chance to make a buck. After he left, I checked myself out of the hospital, bought a plane ticket, and got the hell out of New York. After that, the videos of my music online went viral. With the growing public demand, the streaming platforms caved and my songs were finally released. My career exploded. I became one of the biggest new names in music. During that time, I heard through the grapevine that Isabella had been grounded by her father after the hospital incident. And though the Hayes Corporation was struggling, the two families were too intertwined to fail separately. The engagement was still on, and the wedding date was approaching. I was genuinely happy for them, or at least for me. A year later, I played my first solo headlining show at Madison Square Garden. The place was packed, a roaring sea of lights and sound. At the after-party, I was slightly drunk and had slipped away to a quiet corner to catch my breath when a figure in a mask sat down across from me. A stalker? My security senses tingled. Then, the person pulled down their mask, revealing a devastatingly beautiful face. Chris, Isabella Vance said with a smile. I told you I'd escape and find you.